Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom where the skies glowed soft pink and the rivers shimmered like rose petals, there lived a princess named Rosabelle. She was known as the Pink Princess because everything around her seemed to bloom in shades of blush and coral whenever she smiled. Her gown was always pink, her chamber draped in silk roses, and even the sun seemed to set in her favorite color. But behind her beauty and grace, a shadow waited, one born of an old curse. When Rosabelle was born, the entire kingdom celebrated for 7 days and 7 nights. Her parents, King Edward and Queen Helena, invited fairies from across the lands to bless their newborn child. Each fairy brought a gift: kindness, courage, laughter, music, and beauty. But one fairy, Morgathia, the fairy of the Forgotten Woods, had not been invited. Her heart, twisted by jealousy, arrived at the palace unannounced, her gown made of thorns and smoke. As the music stopped and all eyes turned to her, Morgathia's lips curled into a cruel smile. "So," she said softly, "the royal child receives blessings, but none thought to call upon me." The king tried to offer her gold and jewels, but she only raised her hand. "Then I, too, shall give her a gift, the gift of sorrow." With a wave of her dark wand, a spark of crimson light shot across the room. "When the Pink Princess turns 16, she hissed, "her beauty will fade, her heart will freeze, and she will become a statue of rose stone, forgotten by all who love her." Before anyone could stop her, she vanished in a swirl of black mist. The court was struck with horror. But before despair could take root, a gentle fairy named Lyora stepped forward. Her wings glimmered like dawn. "I cannot undo the curse," she said, "but I can soften it. The princess will not remain a statue forever. True love, not from royalty or power, but from a pure heart, will bring her back." Years passed, and Rosabelle grew into a graceful young woman. Her laughter filled the castle halls, and flowers bloomed wherever she walked. She loved the people of her kingdom dearly, often sneaking into the village dressed as a simple maiden to help the poor, tell stories to children, and care for the sick. But despite her joy, her parents could not forget the curse. Every year, as her 16th birthday drew nearer, they grew more fearful. On the eve of her 16th birthday, the palace was wrapped in silence. Guards were placed everywhere. No spinning wheels, no sharp objects, nothing dangerous was allowed near her. The princess herself, though aware of the prophecy, did not believe her fate was sealed. "Kindness is stronger than curses," she would say with a smile. That night, while the moon hung low and pink over the horizon, Rosabelle sat by her window, gazing at the stars. A soft knock echoed on her chamber door. When she opened it, she saw a small old woman carrying a basket of roses. "For the princess," the woman said in a frail voice. "I grow them in your honor, my lady." Rosabelle smiled warmly and accepted the basket. "They're beautiful," she said, leaning in to smell one. But as soon as she touched the rose, a thorn pricked her finger. A single drop of blood fell on the petals. Her vision blurred, her body weakened, and her eyes closed as she fell into a deep sleep. The old woman's form shifted into Morgathia, her eyes glowing red. "The curse is fulfilled," she whispered, disappearing into the wind. The next morning, the castle woke to find their beloved princess gone. In her place, standing beside the window, was a statue carved of rose-pink stone, her face serene, her hand reaching toward the light. The kingdom fell into despair. The queen wept until her tears turned to pearls, and the king's hair turned silver overnight. They sealed the statue in a glass chamber filled with roses, hoping one day, someone with a pure heart would find her and bring her back. Many years passed. The kingdom changed hands, wars came and went, and the story of the Pink Princess became a legend. Some said she was a myth, others that she had ascended to the heavens. But in the heart of the overgrown palace, her statue still stood, untouched by time. Far away, in a small village by the edge of the enchanted forest, lived a humble gardener named Elias. He spent his days tending flowers, talking to birds, and growing roses that never withered. One night, an old traveler came to his cottage and spoke of a forgotten castle where a statue of a sleeping princess was said to hold the spirit of the most beautiful maiden ever to live. Elias, curious and moved by the tale, decided to see it for himself. The journey was long and full of dangers. The forest whispered secrets, vines tried to pull him back, and shadows moved in the mist. But Elias, guided by his pure heart, never turned back. At last, he reached the ruined gates of the Pink Castle, now covered in ivy and silence. Inside, the air was heavy with enchantment. As he walked through the halls, he saw faded portraits of a smiling princess in pink gowns and walls covered in rose vines. Finally, he reached the chamber where the statue stood. The sight took his breath away. The stone seemed alive, her expression peaceful, as though she were dreaming. He stepped closer and gently brushed the dust from her face. "If the stories are true," he whispered, "and love can break this spell, then let my heart be the one to try." He knelt before the statue and placed a single rose at her feet, one he had grown himself, the rarest kind that never wilted. Then, with deep reverence, he kissed her hand. At first, nothing happened. Then the air shimmered. The rose petals around the room began to swirl, glowing with pink light. The stone softened, the color returned to her cheeks, and her eyes fluttered open. Rosabelle gasped softly, as if waking from a long dream. Where am I?" she whispered. Her eyes met Elias's, filled with kindness and awe. The spell was broken. When she stepped out of the chamber, the vines pulled back, the walls brightened, and sunlight poured in for the first time in centuries. The castle came alive again. The curse that had bound the land was lifted. The fairies returned, singing and dancing, and even the air smelled of roses once more. Elias bowed deeply, unsure if he should speak, but the princess smiled. "You have freed me," she said softly. "You did what even kings and sorcerers could not." He shook his head. "I only did what felt right. No one should be forgotten." She took his hand. "Then you will never be forgotten, Elias." From that day on, Rosabelle ruled not from a golden throne, but beside the man whose heart had freed her. She wore no crown of jewels, only one made of pink roses. Together they rebuilt the kingdom, teaching the people that love and kindness were the truest forms of magic. And as for Morgathia, when she saw that her curse had been undone by a simple gardener, her power faded with her bitterness. The forest that had once echoed her dark magic grew bright with flowers again, and her name was lost to time. Years later, when children played in the gardens of the restored Pink Castle, they would hear the gentle laughter of the princess carried by the wind, as though the land itself still celebrated her freedom. The roses never stopped blooming, the skies forever carried a tint of pink, and the story of the cursed princess who became the Queen of Hearts lived on, whispered by petals, remembered by love, and sung by the fairies beneath the moonlit trees. And so, the Pink Princess, once cursed, became the legend of everlasting love, Her story told for generations to remind all that even the darkest curse can be broken by the light of a pure heart.